And I also used to think of this as being a topaz story about this man who was walking his dog at 7:30 on April 11th, 1943, and then was shot from a great distance through the heart and the cover up and so on. But I'm realizing it's really the story of all the camps in World War II. It belongs to all of us, Japanese Americans and Asian Americans. And then I'm thinking, this is a story that was buried. Literally, it was buried, and the history was not able to be told through this. And so it's an American story as well. And the significance of it to me is growing.
Oh, I love that. And the reason, one of the reasons that I love working with this World War II incarceration archaeology is because it seemed like we were getting better. It seemed like the government acknowledged that it made a mistake, that it paid some minimal, but still reparations, and that we were trying to acknowledge things better, but with making things national parks or national historic landmarks. So I I think that this felt like a real setback, that that a museum would just go and take that stone.
The stone seems to be outdoors in the courtyard. Is that a safe place for it to be during the wintertime, or should it be covered, or what should be done with it now?
Oh, I think it would have been safer in the ground, but I I would like it would be honestly, I'm not sure. I think it should be covered. I think, but you don't want to encourage any mold or mildew on it. Delta's pretty dry, but if there is any writing on it, rain is possible could wash it away. So I'm not sure. I think they should consult a conservator. Believe it or not, that's a whole different field, how to make sure things are properly taken care of, because in the ground there's a certain measure of protection by being in the ground. So maybe the museum has a conservator on staff
Mhm.
that could provide good guidance.
The article that you and Jeff wrote in Discover Nikkei was titled "A Story Meant to Be Found," and I wondered what you meant by that. Do you think that the landscapers could have left a little bit of that stone wanting it to be found by people generations later?
That's what I think, Nancy. I believe that those Issei were badass. They were not doing what the administration told them to do or the military told them to do. Well, they were kind of to the letter of the law, but not to the spirit. So they left that so that somebody would remember, somebody would find it. I I mean they could have put a little tiny bit more dirt on top and we never would have found it. The museum could have put a tiny bit of dirt on top and vandals never would have found it. So I believe that the Issei were very active agents in this, defying the so-called agreement, which was really just an order to erect the monument, and then burying it in a way that it could be found again.
Thank you for bringing that up because the Issei, the immigrant generation, is my grandparents, my grandfather. And because they didn't speak English or very much, and I didn't speak Japanese, we couldn't really communicate. And in the World War II history, their story is the least known. And so to me, this awesome, as you say, badass, it's nearly 5 feet tall. It's 57 inches. And if it's 1,000 pounds, this is their voice.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yes. Yeah, they are not going to be silenced.
And so, as a civil rights monument, as a monument of resistance, the Issei haven't been thought in that way. And so I think this gives us a whole new interpretation of history.
That's a beautiful way to look at it. Most of the stories just talk about how the Issei were sad and crying and reclusive and no, okay, maybe some of them, sometimes they were, but maybe they're also super powerful, expressing themselves. And they're outraged. How could you move that big of a rock unless you were outraged?
And then I also, when I found the map at the time, I just thought it was really amazing because it was a detailed map. But then you went out to the desert and found this, the tip of the iceberg, which was a clue, as you said before. So it seems to me more and more that the map was a clue waiting to be found. The stone was buried in the desert with a little bit showing a clue to be found. And they left these clues for us. And I just find that amazingly moving and powerful.
Yeah, thank the Issei for that. That is a very important legacy, not just for Mr. Wakasa, but for all of them.
And I think that's why I was so emotional when I learned that it had been removed without any Japanese Americans present and without any consultation, because it felt like, frankly, World War II and the oppression that my parents and my family experienced, how much it changed because we weren't told. We weren't told that the sentry was acquitted. No one ever learned that.
Yeah,
He was acquitted and then sent out. He was a 19-year-old from North Carolina. We know that now. The memorial was never in the newspaper, in the camp newspaper. So many of these secrets were kept from us. And then this again was done hastily and by someone who was cleaning debris from a different part of the camp. And it made me incredibly sad and also angry.
yeah, understandably so, Nancy. A terrible lost opportunity.
Lost opportunity.
Maybe that's too light to say, but as soon as, to see something like that, you think, like you say, this is a sign. This is a sign from your ancestors. It's a symbol meant to be found and honored.